I think it's very important for a man to be listening to the shepherds that God has put in his life, to the pastor and the elders in the congregation in which he's serving, because they know what pastoral ministry is about. They know the costs, they know the challenges, and they have the maturity and the wisdom to be able to discern, at least in seed form, whether a man has those kinds of gifts that would be useful to the church. So as we listen to all of our brothers and sisters that we may serve, I think it's especially important that we listen to those brothers whom God has placed as shepherds in our own lives and listen carefully to what they're saying about what they see in your life, what they see in terms of your attention to pursuing holiness out of gratitude for God's grace, as well as those gifts that the Lord may have given you to shepherd, to teach, to encourage, to pray. I have known men who have had a deep inner sense of call to pastoral ministry from a very young age. I myself, even as a very young teenager, thought perhaps God would call me to pastoral ministry, although I took other routes to try to maybe avoid that a bit. But God led me to Westminster Seminary, to its program there, led me to see how much I loved to study the Word. I was apprehensive about how well I could minister it to others, either in the pulpit or in a pastoral counseling situation. And it was really only the church's confirmation as I went through the process of being licensed and then eventually examined as I was using my gifts in ministry that other elders and pastors were saying, "We see in you the gifts and the maturity I didn't always see in myself, but we see in you those gifts and maturity that need to be used for the building up of the flock." And so it was, in some sense, it was really on the day of my ordination in October of 1973 that I really had a sense that, yes, God has called me. God has called me to this high calling. And as inadequate as I still feel in many ways, if He's called me, He will use me in that process of helping others come to know Jesus and to know His grace even more deeply. Now, that sense of confirmation on the day of my ordination did not mean that I never had misgivings after that. But at those times when I still questioned my calling, I could look back to something outside my own feelings, outside my own desires, to the fact that Christ was speaking through His church, through that process that led to my ordination, and that comforted me. I could remember then that the Apostle Paul talks about the fact that this great treasure of the gospel is placed in jars of clay. And I am a jar of clay, but I'm a jar of clay that Jesus has been pleased to use to carry that treasure to others. And the fact that the church has said that to me was, to me, a great encouragement and a great comfort, and kept me going in what I sensed and knew God had called me to.